Hi, I'm Christy, and I'm a yoga teacher at YYOGA. And I am going to run you through a short little power pick-me-up, a good midday break if you really want to reach for a coffee and you're like, I don't feel like I need to be vibrating for the rest of the day. This is a great little pause to just get you refueled, wake up all the parts of the body we like to wake up. All right, this is Brianna. She's going to be my lovely yogi today. All right, we are going to start, my dear, on your hands and your knees. Good. And then I'm going to get you just to take a few cat-cows just to warm your spine a little bit. So on your inhale, let your belly draw down, let your heart reach forward. And then on your exhale, go ahead and round your spine. Again, breathe in and arch your back. And then tuck your toes under. And as you exhale, when you round, take your sit bones to your heels. Take your bum all the way back to your heels so you get a little foot stretch. Good. One more like that. You're going to lean the shoulders forward and arch the spine looking forward. And then as you exhale, take the seat back and get that foot stretch. Good. And then inhale, come forward, tuck your toes under, and you're going to hover your knees off of your mat. Good. And we'll stay here for a couple breaths. So we're waking up her abs. Are you feeling your abs wake up? Good. Stay here for 2 more breaths if you can. And then on your next breath out, you're going to lift your hips up and push back into a downward facing dog. Okay, lower your knees down onto your mat, and I'm going to get you to lie down on your back. And the easiest way to do this, if you just want to cross your ankles behind you and bring your seat to the floor, and then shift forward a little bit and lie down on your back. So we're going to do a little bit more core activation before we start to move more. I'm going to have you put this block between your thighs with your legs up in the air. So you're just going to send your feet up over your hips, squeeze that block. Good. And then take your hands behind the back of your head. And let the back of your hands stay on the ground for right now, but lift your elbows up off the floor. So you're just supporting the weight of your skull. And then what you're going to do first is on your next breath in, think of the base of your tailbone just lifting off the floor as you squeeze into that block. It's pretty subtle. Good. And then on your exhale breath, like a crunch, you're going to lift your shoulder blades up off the floor. We all love crunches. And then on your next breath in, come up a little bit higher. And then exhale, lower everything down. Perfect. Keep those elbows up though. That's great. Inhale, squeeze the block again, lift the base of the tail. And then on your exhale, lift your shoulders up. Inhale, lift the tail and the shoulders a little higher, and then lower back down. Okay, couple more like that. Inhale, tail comes off the ground, squeeze the block. Exhale, shoulders off the ground. Inhale, a little higher, and then breathe out and lower down. This is your last one, I promise. You're gonna lift your tail, lift your shoulders, lift everything, and then little bonus, reach up and touch your toes. Good. And release. Good work. I'm going to remove that block and let you hug your knees into your chest. Okay, so now that we've awakened your core a little bit, you're going to rock yourself forward and back a couple of times, and then cross your ankles and place your hands and step back to downward facing dog. All right, we're going to take a little ankle stretch. You're going to wrap the space between your big and second toe of your right foot around your left ankle and push that heel down to the floor. Good. Keep the left heel down. Reach your right leg up in the air. Inhale. And then on your exhale, bring your knee to your right elbow. You're going to come forward and touch and really claw your fingertips to support your wrists. That's great. Inhale, lift the leg back up. Let's do 2 more like that. Exhale, come forward, touch the back of your arm, claw, claw, claw with your fingers. Nice. Inhale, lift. And then last one, you're going to bring your knee again to your elbow. Exhale. And then lift your leg up. Step your foot forward inside of your right thumb and lower your left knee down to the ground. Okay. I'm going to get you to move your right foot over to the side a little bit on your mat. And then take your hands to the inside of your foot. And if you find that it's difficult for you to reach the ground in this position, you can always use blocks. If you happen to have blocks at home, put them underneath your hands. If you don't have blocks, you can use pillows, just to give yourself a little bit more height. So your hips are going to keep coming forward and down. Your chest is going to lift up. Good. And we'll stay here in lizard pose just for a few breaths. And then push your front heel firmly into the floor and think of this front thigh vacuum sealing back into your hip socket. If you feel any weird sensation in your front knee when you're doing lizard pose, you have the option to turn your front toes just ever so slightly towards the right. And usually that will relieve any knee pain. How's your knee feeling right now? Good? Okay, place your hands. Let's come back to downward facing dog. And then bring yourself to plank pose. And we're going to hold plank pose for 3 breaths. And you can choose at home. If I said plank and immediately you're like, I'm already done with this video, then you can lower your knees down. And if you love planking and you do it every day, then you keep your knees off the ground if it's your favorite pose. Oh, she's thinking about it. Okay, 1 more breath in wherever you are. Optional knees on the ground or not. And then come all the way down to the floor. Good. Okay, so I'm going to get you to take your wrists back underneath your elbows. Good. And then tuck your toes under. You're going to keep your knees on the ground, and you're going to push yourself up to plank pose with your knees on the ground. On your next breath in, come up. Good. And then as you exhale, lower to chaturanga on your knees. We're going to activate her shoulders. Good. Inhale, straighten your arms. We're going to do just 2 more of those. Exhale, lower halfway. Elbows are really close to the sides, but not quite touching. Good. Breathe in and straighten. And then last one, exhale and lower. Stay here for 1 breath in. Straighten your arms. Good. Push your hips back to your heels. Downward facing dog. Okay, let's take that stretch on the other side with your toes of your left foot around your right ankle. Push your heel down to the floor. Good. And you're going to wrap your shoulders again wide around your back. Okay, raise your left leg up and let's do those 3 taps again to the elbow. So knee comes forward, touches the left arm. Inhale, lift. Again, come forward and touch. 1 more. Good. Breathe out and touch. Good. Take that leg up in the air and step your foot forward. Right knee comes down onto your mat. You're going to move your foot again over to the left edge and then come up onto your fingertips and let your hips get a little heavier. Let your chest reach up. And then the same thing, just so that we're supporting her spine. We want to keep the legs a little active as we stretch. Thinking of this thigh vacuum sealing back. And let your hips get a little heavier. Okay, place your hands, step back to downward facing dog. So let's just practice 1 half vinyasa here. We're going to warm up your shoulders and your core a little bit more before we move into our peak pose. On your inhale, come to plank pose. And again, you can lower your knees down if you feel like you need that extra support. On your exhale, lower halfway or all the way to your mat. Good. Untuck your toes. Let's just take a cobra pose for now, lifting your chest. And then back to a downward facing dog. Okay, Brianna, walk your feet up to the very front of your mat. And before we come into our peak pose, we're going to take 1 more stretch for the hips. I'm going to stack your blocks for you to sit on, and we're going to come down into a squat. So when you're ready to lower your seat down onto those blocks, you can go ahead. Take your feet as wide as your mat as you lower your sit bones down. And then have your elbows really high up at your inner knees, and lift your chest up. And as you push your elbows into your knees, squeeze your knees back into your elbows. And something to be mindful of for my friends at home, bring this heel a little bit more forward so it's more underneath your knee. Yeah, is noticing that your kneecaps and your second toes are pointing in the same direction just to protect the knees. Good. And then again, push the elbows into the knees, knees into the elbows, and lift the chest. Good. Take a few more breaths here. All right, take your hands back to the floor, shift forward and lift your hips and forward fold. So our peak pose today is an arm balancing posture, and I think it's one of the best intros for arm balancing. It's crow pose, and I'm gonna use a block today to help Brianna get her hips high enough to help her find more ease transitioning into the arm balance itself. So what we'll do is we'll put a block right in between your heels, Liv, and then I'm gonna get you to step the balls of your feet onto this block. And you're going to come down into a little squat. You're going to crouch down. If you don't have a block at home, you can always use books or even pillows underneath your feet just to give you a little bit of extra height. So she's down in this nice squat. Her knees are wide. And then I'm going to ask you to bend your elbows a little bit. And one at a time, you're going to wrap your outer arms way up here high on their deltoid, we call it. inside of your knee. So you're gonna kind of like wrap and tuck in. She's gonna do that on both sides. See if you can go even tuck in a little bit more. Get your leg even more, yes, around, good. And then her elbows are gravitating towards each other, like there's a magnet between her elbows. She's wrapping her arms inward towards her center. She's squeezing her knees like crazy and then clawing her finger pads. All she's gonna do is lean more forward with her chest so that she gets lighter on her feet, good. And if she gets light enough, she keeps squeezing the knees in and in and in and elbows in, maybe she lifts one of her feet off the block. And then if she feels really brave, she might try the other foot too. And then maybe eventually both of her feet come off the block. Good. And then when you're done with this, you're just gonna step one foot at a time to the sides of the block and come to stand and forward fold. And then take a big sigh out through your mouth. You can do a better sigh than that. That's better. All right, great. And just to help your hands after that weight bearing, let's tuck your hands underneath your feet, Brianna. Come into hand to foot pose, and you can lean a little more weight forward into the balls of your feet so that you're massaging out the muscles of your hands. Let your head just hang, relax. Remove your hands out from underneath your feet and then come on to sit down on this block any way that's comfortable for you. And before we go back into our day, we'll just take a moment to sit. Just let your hands rest on your thighs, close your eyes, and elongate your spine. And let your palms face up just as an offering that it doesn't really matter if we can actually get into these arm balances. It's just that we attempt them and that we challenge ourselves to try something new. Thank you so much, Brianna, for giving me some of your time today. You did a great job. And I hope to see you all again soon tuning into YYOGA. Have a great day.